in a small, tight-knit town in rural Kansas, where the white community kept their distance and fear ran deep, he arrived, a quiet, hard-working black man looking for a second chance. But all he got was cold stares and protests demanding he leave, until the day a brutal tornado struck, leaving the town's mayor, the same man who wanted him gone, trapped in an open field. And it was him, the outsider they rejected, who risked everything to save him and changed the town forever. Before we dive in this story, let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear your thought. The sun hung heavy over the endless cornfields of rural Kansas, casting long shadows across the dry, cracked dirt roads. The air smelled of dust and heat. Cicadas buzzed in the distance, and the faint hum of farm equipment echoed across the land. This was the kind of town where everyone knew everyone, and where outsiders never stayed long. Folks gathered on porches, rocking in old wooden chairs, sipping iced tea, eyes narrowed as a pickup truck rumbled past. Kids tossed a ball on the side of the road but froze the moment they saw him. Their games stopped. Their eyes lingered. Mothers quietly called them back inside. He stood out like ink on a blank page. A black man, maybe around 50. Tall, broad shoulders hardened by years of labor. His skin, dark and weathered by the sun, only seemed to fuel the whispers. His short-cropped hair was flecked with gray, his jaw sharp, his eyes deep, haunted almost. Hands rough and scarred, the kind of hands that had seen hard work and harder days. He wore plain work clothes, faded jeans, a worn flannel shirt, sturdy boots caked with dirt. They didn't know his name. Didn't want to. To them he was that man from the fields. The only black man for miles. Some folks crossed the street when they saw him coming. Others muttered under their breath about keeping the town the way it always was. It wasn't always words. Sometimes it was looks, cold and cutting like a winter wind. Even the kids avoided him, pulling their mothers' hands tight as they passed by. But he wasn't here to make friends. He had nowhere else to go. The town's only exception was Mr. Hawkins, the old war veteran who owned the biggest farm around. A man with weathered skin and sharp eyes who'd seen enough of the world to know better than small-town prejudice. Hawkins was the one who took him in, gave him a job, a place to sleep, a shred of dignity. Said he didn't care what color a man was, as long as he worked hard and kept honest. But the town didn't see it that way. The mayor, a broad, graying man with a stiff jaw and a sharper tongue, made it clear from the start he didn't trust strangers, especially not a black man with no roots here. Whispers turned to side eyes to murmurs, and pretty soon picket signs appeared in front of Hawkins' farm. Keep our town safe. Outsiders not welcome. Kansas for Kansans. Through it all, the man stayed quiet. Day after day, sunrise to sunset, he worked the fields, fixed the fences, fed the livestock. At night he kept to himself, never setting foot near the town square, never walking the streets. They called him invisible, but they never saw his eyes, the quiet storm building behind them. And while they looked away, the Kansas sky darkened. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon, but not all storms come from the sky. The sky was wrong. He could feel it before he saw it, the way the wind shifted, sharp and uneasy, the way the cicadas fell silent. Out on the fields, the corn stood still, tall and stiff like rows of soldiers holding their breath. Kansas had storms every year, but this was different. The clouds rolled in slow, dark bellies, pressing low over the land, swallowing the sunlight. The air crackled, heavy with the kind of stillness that makes your skin itch. Folks in town felt it too. He saw them when he drove the tractor past the edge of the fields. Neighbors lingering on porches, eyes fixed to the sky, lips tight, old fears creeping into new worries. The siren hadn't gone off yet, but it was only a matter of time. Inside Hawkins' barn, the old radio squawked with static and the sharp, familiar voice of the weather alert system. Tornado watch in effect for Jefferson County. Repeat, tornado watch in effect. Seek shelter immediately when sirens sound. Mr. Hawkins turned the dial down, his face hard, lines deepening around his eyes. "It's coming," the old man muttered, looking toward the dark horizon. Then his gaze landed on him. "Best stay close to the shelter tonight, son." The man only nodded. The shelter, the concrete bunker built generations ago under the main barn, was big enough for a dozen families. He'd seen it once, but never stepped inside when the town gathered. No one invited him. They never had to say it out loud, the looks, the tight grips on their kids' shoulders. The space they left around him spoke plenty. His place was in the fields, not beside them. By late afternoon the sky bruised darker, yellow and green bleeding into the clouds like something toxic swirling overhead. The first wail of the tornado siren broke across the town, a long, low sound that made the ground seem to hum beneath his boots. It was happening. All across the farm, people burst into motion. Hawkins barking orders, workers rushing for the shelter, trucks peeling off toward town. He grabbed his coat, stepping out into the howling wind, eyes scanning the fields. Beyond the property line, the town looked like an anthill kicked open. Families huddled together, pushing strollers, carrying bags, hurrying along the dirt road toward the shelters in town square. Doors slammed shut, windows boarded. Fear spread faster than the storm. And in the middle of it all, the mayor stood, red-faced and barking commands, his gray hair plastered to his temples with sweat. "Move, get to the shelter," his voice boomed over the chaos. "Don't stop, get those kids inside now." His crisp white shirt clung to him, the town's golden badge pinned over his chest glinting under the heavy clouds. The same man who weeks earlier had stood in front of Hawkins' farm, waving signs, spitting words like outsider, dangerous, and trouble. Now fear had drained the color from his face, but the arrogance stayed sharp in his eyes as he herded his people like cattle toward the bunker at the church. The man stayed back, watching from the edge of the field. His boots sank into the soft dirt as the wind picked up, tugging at his jacket, whispering promises of what was coming. His heart beat steady, but his jaw tightened. He knew storms. The way they crept in quiet, then turned savage in seconds. Just like people. The first crack of thunder rolled across the sky like a warning shot. Behind him the corn rippled like waves under invisible hands. He turned, ready to head for Hawkins' shelter, when it happened. A sharp groan split the air. The roof of a tool shed twisting under the pressure, a sheet of wood ripped free, spinning high into the air like a toy. His eyes tracked it, instinct sharp. The wooden beam sailed across the field, caught by the rising gusts, tumbling fast and hard toward the crowd scrambling near the road. It hit the mayor. The sound wasn't loud, but it landed with sick finality, a dull crack as wood met bone. The mayor's body jerked. His legs buckled, and he collapsed onto the dirt, unmoving. For half a second, everything froze. People screamed. Mothers clutched their children. Someone shouted, "The mayor! He's down!" But no one moved. They were frozen, staring, weighing their own fear. Some glanced toward him, the outsider, the only black man for miles, standing tall near the edge of the fields, watching it all unfold, their faces twisted in a mess of fear and uncertainty. Their leader was down, the sky was boiling, but their feet stayed rooted to the ground. His eyes locked on the mayor's body lying limp among the crushed corn stalks. The wind clawed at his clothes, whipping the dust into his face. Behind him, the siren wailed again, long and hollow, as the first shards of rain sliced sideways across the fields. The storm wasn't here yet, but it was coming, and no one was moving. His fingers curled into fists at his sides as he watched the scene. Their hesitation, their fear, the same fear that had kept them from shaking his hand, that had made mothers pull their children close when he walked by, that had made protest signs pop up on Hawkins' fence. Now, that same fear chained their legs to the ground, while their leader lay helpless in the dirt. His chest tightened, but he didn't move. Not yet. Not yet. The wind howled louder, bending the corn, rattling windows, pulling shingles loose from rooftops. He tasted the dust on his tongue, thick and bitter. The clouds churned above like smoke from some unseen fire, and still no one moved. The mayor lay bleeding in the dirt, and the storm was coming. For a moment, It was like the whole world held its breath. The wind screamed through the fields. The clouds above twisted and roared, but down on the ground, nothing. Just the mayor lying in the dirt, his body limp, one arm crooked under him at an unnatural angle. People stood frozen, eyes wide, mouths open, clinging to each other like cattle backed into a corner. They didn't move. They didn't speak. They didn't save him. And neither did he. Not at first. His boots were rooted to the ground, fists clenched tight at his sides. The memories pressed in all at once. The protests in front of Hawkins' farm, the whispers behind his back, the looks they threw him like daggers every time he passed through town. They wanted him gone, every single one of them. Even now their eyes flicked between him and the mayor, suspicion tangled with fear, like they couldn't decide which one they hated more, the storm overhead or the man standing in front of them. But then his eyes landed on the old man lying helpless in the field, and something heavy settled in his chest. The mayor wasn't just the man who'd wanted him gone. He was the one they all followed, their leader, their face of authority. If he died out there, maybe part of him thought it'd be easier. Maybe part of him thought they'd finally leave him alone. But that wasn't who he was. The storm didn't care about color or grudges or protests. It didn't care who you loved or who you feared. When it came for you, it came for everyone. And right now it was coming fast. Without another thought, his legs moved. The ground was already trembling beneath his boots, loose dirt swirling up in spirals as he pushed through the wind. The cornstalks whipped at his face, leaves slicing against his skin like tiny blades, but he kept going. His heart pounded hard against his ribs, not from fear, but from the weight of what he was about to do. A low, guttural roar rolled across the sky. The tornado hadn't touched down yet, but it was close, too close. The clouds above spun faster, a giant gray funnel beginning to stretch downward like the finger of God himself, ready to carve the earth apart. He reached the mayor's side, dropping to one knee, fingers pressing to the man's neck. Pulse weak, but there. The gash on his forehead ran thick with blood, staining his pale skin a dark crimson. His breathing was shallow, uneven, his face slack with unconsciousness. The man hesitated for just a second longer, eyes scanning the field, the people still standing frozen by the shelter doors. Their faces were pale, etched with fear, but none of First M moved toward the mayor. None of them even called his name. They were waiting, watching, judging, the same way they always had. Fine, let them watch. With a grunt, he shifted the mayor onto his shoulders. The weight nearly sent him crashing back to the ground. The older man was heavier than he looked, his limp body awkward and unbalanced. But he adjusted, planting his boots firm in the soft dirt. His back screamed in protest. The wind clawed at his clothes, threatening to drag them both off their feet, but he held fast. The cornfield stretched out before him like an impossible maze, the shelter hidden somewhere beyond the rise. He could barely see it now, the bunker's thick concrete walls just visible past the bend, the crowd still clustered outside like frightened birds. He took the first step. The ground was slick from the rising rain, mud sucking at his boots. His free hand shot out, grabbing for anything, roots, stalks, clumps of grass. The earth gave way beneath his fingers, dirt grinding under his nails as he crawled forward, inch by inch. The mayor's body sagged over him, dead weight, but he gritted his teeth and kept going. The roar of the approaching tornado filled the sky, a sound so loud it made his bones vibrate. The wind yanked at him, pulling his coat back like it wanted to rip him clean off the ground. He tightened his grip, his bloody fingers digging into the stubborn roots that clung to the earth beneath him. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't heroic. It was raw and desperate. The kind of struggle that left your muscles burning, your lungs gasping for breath. But it was real. Behind him, the crowd stared in stunned silence. Even through the howling wind, he could feel their eyes on him, wide with shock, heavy with something else, something almost like shame. The shelter was closer now, 10 feet, 5. The rise of earth gave them a brief shield from the worst of the wind. He stumbled the last few steps, muscles trembling, blood dripping down his wrist from torn palms and split knuckles. His knees hit the dirt beside the bunker entrance. Hawkins was already there, face pale, reaching out. "You did good." The old man's voice was tight with urgency as he helped ease the mayor down. "Real damn good." The man's chest heaved, every breath sharp like broken glass. His hands shook, his body ached, but the mayor was safe, alive. The storm wasn't finished, not yet. But in that moment, as the people of the town, those same ones who'd spat his name like poison, watched him haul their leader out of the jaws of the storm, something shifted. They saw him now, and storms change everything. The storm left as suddenly as it had come. By morning the sky stretched wide and blue, innocent as if nothing had happened. But the ground told a different story. The fields were shredded, cornstalks flattened in twisted heaps, pieces of rooftops and wood scattered like forgotten bones across the dirt. Fences torn from the earth, power lines snapped like thread. The town looked stripped bare, raw, as if the storm had peeled back every false layer and left only truth behind. He stood at the edge of the property, boots planted in the damp, muddy ground, watching as crews worked in silence. Pickup trucks bumped down the road, hauling broken lumber and twisted metal. Neighbors called to each other, voices lower than usual, their eyes darting toward him when they thought he wasn't looking. But he saw. The glances weren't the same anymore. No more tight-lipped suspicion, no quick steps to avoid him. It wasn't acceptance yet. But it wasn't hate either, it was hesitation. The mayor had made it through the night. The paramedics had arrived just before dawn, hauling him off on his stretcher, his head wrapped in bandages, his face pale and bruised but alive. The whispers started before the ambulance even turned the corner. Carried him all that way. Didn't hesitate. Storm damn near killed him, but he dragged the mayor to safety. The words floated like smoke, curling around him everywhere he went, but they didn't change the knot tightening in his chest. It was always the same. They only saw you when it suited them, when you bled for them, when you proved your worth again and again, like some test no one else had to take. He packed his things quietly. The small room Hawkins had given him above the tool shed didn't hold much. A duffel with worn clothes, a pair of boots, an old photograph of a woman with kind eyes and a tired smile. His wife. Gone for years now, but her face still tucked safe inside his jacket. Hawkins leaned against the doorframe as he stuffed the last of his things into the bag. The old man's gaze was steady, arms folded across his chest. "You sure about this?" He didn't answer right away. His fingers lingered on the photograph before sliding it into his coat pocket. "They don't want me here," he said quietly. Hawkins snorted, pushing off the frame. They didn't want you here before you pulled their mayor out of that field either." His boots thudded on the wooden floor as he crossed the room. "But I seen the way they looked at you after. Hell, you think they'd stand there starring if it was anyone else? They're trying to figure out how to swallow their pride." He slung the duffel over his shoulder, jaw tight. "Don't matter. It's always the same." For a moment, Hawkins didn't speak. The barn creaked in the wind. The quiet hum of workers cleaning up drifted through the open window. Finally, the old man sighed. "You do what you gotta do, son, but don't fool yourself into thinking running fixes everything. Sometimes staying, that's the harder fight." The words stuck with him as he made his way down the dirt path, bag slung over one shoulder, boots heavy against the ground. The field stretched empty now, battered flat by the storm. The barn stood crooked, patched with tarps and broken boards. The town ahead was still piecing itself back together. He didn't belong here, never had. His old pickup sat by the fence, engines sputtering faintly as it idled. He tossed the bag onto the seat, fingers pausing on the door handle. A part of him, the tired, worn part, wanted to drive, to disappear down that long, endless Kansas road and never look back. But movement by the barn caught his eye. They came quiet at first. Just Hawkins, his weathered boots crunching over the gravel, arms folded, his face unreadable. But then others followed, one by one, two by two, like a slow, steady tide creeping in. Families. Workers, mothers with their kids clutching close. Old men with ball caps in their hands, twisting the fabric between nervous fingers. They didn't come with signs this time. No shouting, no pointed stares or whispered slurs. Just tired faces, uneasy eyes, and something else beneath it all. Something that looked an awful lot like shame. The crowd gathered by the edge of the farm road, right there beneath the battered old oak tree that still leaned stubborn after the storm. And then, parting through the group, the mayor appeared. His steps were slow, stiff, one hand bracing his side. The white bandage on his head looked stark against his tanned skin, his face pale beneath the swelling. But his eyes, those sharp, hard eyes, were softer now. No arrogance, no hate. Only quiet, raw humility. For a long moment no one spoke. The only sound was the restless wind pulling at the loose tarp flapping on the barn roof. Then the mayor cleared his throat, voice rough but steady. "You saved my life," he said, the words carrying over the field like a stone dropping into still water. "I don't reckon you owed me that." His gaze shifted to the crowd, holding each of them in his tired stare. "Hell, you didn't owe any of us that." There was a shuffle of boots on dirt, the weight of unspoken truths hanging thick in the air. Then another voice spoke. An older woman near the front, hair pulled tight under a faded sun hat. Her name was Mrs. Keller. He recognized her from the market, the same woman who used to steer her grandkids to the other side of the street when he passed. But now, her voice cracked with something raw. "We were wrong," she said simply. "I was wrong." Beside her, a man in a grease-stained shirt nodded, his eyes darting toward the ground. "Didn't see you, not really." His jaw clenched. "Didn't want to." A boy's voice piped up, trembling but clear. "Mama said you were dangerous." The boy shrank back under his mother's hand, but her face flushed, and her fingers squeezed his shoulder gentle, her eyes shining with regret. "I was scared," she whispered. "Didn't know better." The mayor's voice cut through again, quiet but firm. "We all judged you, every one of us. We saw what we wanted to see, till you showed us the truth." He took another step forward, favoring his side, stopping just short of the truck. "This town ain't perfect. It's got a damn long way to go. But it's yours now, same as ours. If you'll give us a chance to fix what we broke." The words lingered like smoke in the cool air. He looked at them, the faces that had once turned away now watching him, hesitant, hopeful, raw. Not all of them spoke, but it was there, in the way shoulders sagged, the way proud jaws loosened, the way eyes met his and didn't look through him this time. For the first time in years, he wasn't invisible. His fingers loosened on the door handle, the hum of the engine rumbled steady, but his boots stayed planted firm in the dirt. He scanned the crowd one last time, his gaze lingering on the boy, on the old woman, on Hawkins, on the mayor, battered but standing. Their words weren't polished, their voices shook with discomfort, but there was no malice left, just flawed, stumbling humanity trying to set something right. The road still stretched wide behind him, but maybe he didn't need to take it. Not today. The seasons rolled by, slow and steady, the way they always did in Kansas. The fields healed first, their stubborn rows of green pushing through the soil, stretching toward the sun like nothing had ever happened. Then came the roofs, patched and painted, fences rebuilt, windows replaced. The storm had left its scars, but scars didn't mean broken. Scars meant survival. He stayed. It wasn't a grand decision, no fireworks or speeches, just one quiet morning after another. One job finished, one neighbor's cautious nod turning into a wave, then a conversation, then an invitation to supper that he almost didn't accept. But he did, and then another, and another. The kids stopped staring first, they always do. They're quicker to forget fear than grown-ups are. It started with shy glances over the fence, curious eyes peeking through the slats as he worked the land. Then a ball rolled into his yard one afternoon, and a little girl in braids stood frozen at the gate, wide-eyed, unsure. He picked up the ball, held it out, and smiled. "Not much, just enough." She smiled back. After that, the walls came down faster than he ever expected. The town changed quiet. like grass growing after rain. The looks softened, the whispers faded. His name wasn't that man anymore. It was just his name. Folks started asking for his help with broken fences, engines that wouldn't start, advice about crops when the weather turned dry. They didn't always get it right, didn't always know what to say, but they tried. And sometimes trying was enough. The sun was high and soft the day he stood on the porch of the small house by the fields, watching the kids run wild across the yard. Their laughter carried over the breeze, sharp and clear like music. The old oak tree swayed gentle above them, its branches strong again, green and full like nothing could shake it now. Hawkins leaned against the fence nearby, watching with that same quiet pride he always carried. The old man's health wasn't what it used to be, but his eyes were sharp as ever. "Told you," Hawkins said, tapping ash from his cigarette into the dirt. "This place grows on you." He didn't answer right away, just let his gaze follow the kids, their bare feet kicking up dust, their faces flushed with joy that didn't care about the past. His chest tightened, but it wasn't the bitter knot it used to be. It was quieter now, softer. "You ever think," he spoke low, almost more to himself than Hawkins, "that home ain't where you're born, but where they finally let you stay?" Hawkins chuckled, pushing off the fence. "Nah," he drawled, "home's where they finally see you, and choose to keep seeing you." The words settled deep, heavier than they sounded. For a long time he hadn't believed a place like that existed for him. But standing there, watching those kids laugh, feeling the earth solid beneath his boots, the distant hum of life carrying across the fields. Maybe it did. Maybe it always had. The wind picked up, warm and easy, carrying the faint scent of cut grass and rich soil. One of the boys tumbled to the ground. Dirt streaked across his knees, but he bounced back up, grinning wide, unafraid. The little girl in braids, the same one from before, ran past him, shouting his name, not sir, not mister, just his name, sweet and simple, like he'd always belonged here, and maybe now he finally did. The house behind him creaked, soft in the breeze, the porch boards worn but sturdy. The town stretched beyond the fields, roofs glinting under the sun, distant voices carrying on the wind, familiar now, not hostile, not suspicious, just human. He slid his hands into his pockets, the old photograph of his wife tucked safe against his chest. He closed his eyes for a breath, feeling the weight of the years, the loss, the wandering, the ache of never quite belonging, easing, fading, replaced by something new, not perfect, but real. A place called home, and for the first time in as long as he could remember, he stayed. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.